The rifle they stopped counting. January 14th, 1943. Dawn breaks over the frozen outskirts of Krasny Bor, south of Leningrad. The air is sharp enough to sting exposed skin, -20 degrees and falling. Snow creaks under boots, and crushed ice snaps like dry twigs. You are low in the drifts, breath shallow, eyes fixed down a narrow field of fire that cuts between shattered birch trees and a collapsed fence line. Senior Sergeant Ivan Petrov does not move. He lies wrapped in a whitewashed smock stained with soot and frost, cheek pressed to the cold, wood of a rifle most men in the Red Army have stopped respecting. A Mosin Nagant model 1891-30. Long barrel, iron sights, no scope. A design older than the war itself, older than Petrov. The Germans call it primitive. Their officers call it obsolete. Petrov knows its weight, its balance, the way the bolt drags slightly unless you cycle it with purpose. He knows the trigger breaks a fraction later than expected. He has learned to wait for that moment. Ahead, beyond the open ground, the German infantry begins to appear. Feldgrau coats, white over smocks, helmets bobbing as they advance in short rushes, confident. Too confident. Reconnaissance reported only scattered resistance here. The last push before the road. The Soviets are supposed to be broken. Petrov counts silently. Not men. Paces. At 180 meters, a German lieutenant raises his arm, signaling the platoon forward. The sound of boots and equipment carries clearly in the still air. No artillery yet. No machine gun chatter. Just movement. Petrov exhales slowly. The Mosin rests on a folded greatcoat packed hard with snow. No vipov, no lukshchuri. His gloved finger takes up the slack. He does not aim for the chest. He aims just below the collarbone of the officer, compensating for distance and cold. The shot cracks like a snap branch. Recoil thumps into his shoulder. The bolt comes up and back in one smooth practice motion. A brass casing spins out, briefly steaming before vanishing into the snow. The lieutenant drops straight down. No krai, no flying. Just gone. The German line freezes. Men hit the ground. Someone shouts. A machine gun crew fumbles with a bipod, unsure where to set it. The confidence drains away, replaced by uncertainty. They were told this sector was dead. Silent. Empty. Petrov does not rush the second shot. He waits for the man who takes charge next. A Feldwebel crawls forward, peering through binoculars. Petrov tracks him patiently, sights steady despite the cold gnawing at his fingers. Another controlled breath. Another crack. The Feldwebel slumps sideways, binoculars dropping into the snow. Now the Germans pull back a few meters. Orders are shouted. A flare goes up, red against the pale sky. They spread out, trying to locate the shooter. But Petrov has already shifted, dragging himself a meter to the left, pressing his body deeper into the drift. The white smock blends perfectly. The rifle barrel is wrapped in cloth to cut glare. This rifle, this old thing, fires again. A radio operator goes down, then a runner. Each time, a single shot. Each time, a pause. The effect is not mass casualties. It is paralysis. Minutes stretch. The advance halts completely. Behind Petrov, 50 meters back in the treeline, a platoon of Soviet infantry waits, crouched and shivering. They have orders to hold as long as possible. They watch in disbelief as the German movement collapses without a barrage, without a firefight. Just the steady punctuation of one rifle. Petrov feels the ache in his jaw from holding position. His eyelashes are crusted with frost. He cycles the bolt again, slow and quiet, and settles back onto the sights. The Germans begin probing fire, spraying bursts into empty snowbanks and shattered stumps. Bullets snap overhead. Dirt and ice spray. Still Petrov waits. He is not trying to kill them all. He is trying to stop them from moving. And with every deliberate shot from a rifle they dismissed as irrelevant, the ground ahead grows quieter, heavier, as if the battlefield itself has decided to hold its breath, freezing the advance. The German platoon does not know his name. They do not know his rank. They do not even know how many rifles face them. But they feel the pressure of being watched, measured, selected. A corporal tries to break the stalemate. He crawls forward with two men, using a shallow depression in the snow. They inch ahead, boots scraping softly, breath fogging the air. One of them raises his head just long enough to look back for a signal. The rifle answers immediately. The man collapses face first, helmet rolling free. The other two scramble backward in panic, dragging him by the webbing until they realize he is already dead. Now the Germans stop advancing altogether. An officer further back radios battalion command. He reports accurate sniper fire. He exaggerates the number. He has to. It feels like more than one rifle. It feels coordinated, disciplined, deadly. Petrov listens to the echoes fade, then scans again. His world has narrowed to iron sights, breath, and the slow tightening of cold in his limbs. He flexes his fingers inside the gloves to keep them responsive. Each movement is deliberate. Waste nothing. Motion attracts death. The Mosin Nagant rests like an extension of his body. He remembers its history from training lectures he barely listened to. Adopted before the Great War. Issued to his grandfather. Passed down through arsenals and conflicts. Heavy, slow, but accurate. Always accurate. German machine gun fire erupts suddenly, raking the tree where Petrov had been minutes earlier. Snow explodes into white plumes. Branches snap. Bark shreds. The gunner walks the fire left and right, hoping for a scream, a twitch, anything. There is nothing. Petrov has already shifted again, this time sliding behind a burned-out farm cart half buried in snow. He wedges the rifle through a gap in the broken wood. The barrel is steady. The field of fire opens again. A German non-commissioned officer stands to direct the machine gun. He points, shouting over the clatter. Petrov sees the red slash of a rank stripe on the man's sleeve. One shot. The shouting stops. The machine gun stutters, then goes silent as the crew drags the body down and abandons the position entirely. The battlefield begins to feel wrong to the attackers. No forward progress. No visible enemy. Only death appearing wherever leadership shows itself. The men huddle low, firing sporadically at shadows, wasting ammunition into snow and trees. Minutes turn into half an hour. Petrov counts his rounds. He has used 11. Each one chosen. Each one justified. He still has enough to last the day if needed. Behind him, a Red Army lieutenant crawls close enough to whisper. His breath trembles with cold and excitement. "You are stopping them," he says. Petrov does not answer. He does not turn his head. Words do not help now. A German mortar round lands short, thumping into the snow with a dull concussion. Shrapnel whistles overhead. Another lands closer. Then another. The pattern tightens. They're trying to bracket him. Petrov waits through it, body pressed flat, trusting the shallow depression and the packed snow to absorb fragments. When the barrage pauses, he is already shifting again, leaving behind only disturbed snow and empty casings. He reappears further down the line, overlooking the road itself. The Germans had planned to cross it by now. Instead, it remains empty, a pale ribbon untouched by boots. A half-track idles behind cover, engine ticking. An officer climbs out, binoculars raised. He has had enough of being stalled by ghosts. Petrov studies the man carefully. Distance. Wind. Cold. The front sight settles. The shot rings out. The officer drops backward against the vehicle, binoculars shattering on the ice. That is the moment the German advance truly dies. Orders shift from attack to survival. Men dig in where they are. Smoke grenades are thrown blindly, clouding the field but achieving nothing. No assault follows. No ruse. Only caution and fear. For an hour, the front remains locked in place. Soviet reinforcements arrive quietly behind the line. A machine gun team sets up. Mortars are dragged forward. All because one old rifle held the enemy still long enough to change the shape of the fight. Petrov remains where he is, eyes burning, muscles numb. He does not feel heroic. He feels focused, alive, necessary. When the order finally comes to open up with full fire, it is almost anticlimactic. Soviet machine guns roar. Mortars thump. The German line recoils under the sudden weight of weapons they had not prepared for. Petrov fires again, once, twice, picking targets as they break and run. The rifle they ignored has already done its work. The weapon they thought was finished. The German withdrawal is not a retreat at first. It is a stagger. Men pull back in short rushes, dragging wounded, slipping on ice, shouting conflicting orders. Smoke hangs low over the snow, turning the world gray and muffled. The sudden roar of Soviet machine guns has shattered the illusion that this sector was weak. Petrov watches it unfold through the iron sights. He has moved again, crawling into the remains of a shallow trench abandoned earlier in the winter. The wood supports are cracked. Ice coats the bottom. It smells of frozen earth and old sweat. He ignores the discomfort and settles the rifle across the lip, barrel just high enough. A German squad tries to regroup near a stand of trees. An officer waves them into position, trying to form a base of fire. Petrov recognizes the posture instantly. He has seen it before, the moment when momentum might return. He denies it. One shot. The officer folds. The squad scatters, some firing wildly, others dropping flat and refusing to move. The Mosin Nagant cycles again. The bolt is stiff now from ice. Petrov works it harder, feeling the familiar resistance, trusting the steel. The rifle has been through worse. So has he. Around him, the battle grows louder. Soviet infantry advance in short bounds, shouting, encouraged by the sudden shift. Where there was fear an hour ago, there is now confidence. The enemy can be stopped. They're being stopped. A young Red Army soldier slides into the trench beside Petrov, eyes wide as he watches the marksman work. He stares at the rifle, surprised. That thing still works? The soldier asks, disbelief clear in his voice. Petrov answers without looking away. It works if you do. The Germans bring up another machine gun, setting it behind a low rise. The gunner fires a long burst, cutting across the open ground where Soviet troops are moving. Men dive for cover. Progress stalls. Petrov studies the position. The gun shield is thin. The crew exposed just enough. He waits for the assistant gunner to lean in. The shot takes him through the shoulder. The man screams and collapses into the gun. The burst cuts off midstream. The crew abandons it immediately, leaving the weapon silent and useless. This is not how the Germans plan this fight. Their doctrine values speed, coordination, suppression. All of it depends on leaders standing up, pointing, directing. Petrov has learned that truth through hard experience. So he hunts the men who stand. Time passes strangely. There is no clear sense of minutes or hours. Only targets, breathing the creeping cold. Petrov's fingers ache despite the gloves. His face is numb. He blinks to clear tears frozen at the corners of his eyes. A German sniper finally tries to answer him. The crack comes from the left, close enough that Petrov hears the bullet snap past. Snow sprays from the trench wall. Petrov does not flinch. He lowers his head and listens. Another shot, slightly further back. The German is searching, not certain. Petrov shifts position by inches, slow as frost forming. He scans the likely angles. A dark shape near a broken tree trunk. Too still. He fires. The return shot never comes. The Red Army lieutenant crawls back again, grinning now, face flushed despite the cold. Command says you held them long enough. Counterattack is rolling across the whole sector. Petrov finally allows himself to breathe deeper. He checks his ammunition. 7 rounds left. Enough. The Germans are pulling back in earnest now, leaving equipment behind, wounded crying out in the snow. The road they meant to take remains untouched. Their timetable is broken. Their confidence shattered. All of this, Petrov knows, will be written later as artillery support, combined arms, coordinated defense. But he was here. He knows what truly stopped them. An old rifle, steady hands, and the understanding that wars are not decided by what is modern, but by what is used well at the right moment. Holding the line when time runs out. The counterattack does not sweep forward in a single dramatic surge. It crawls. It hesitates. Men advance carefully, stepping over churned snow and abandoned packs. Rifles raised, eyes searching for movement. The Germans are wounded, not destroyed. And wounded forces are often the most dangerous. Petrov stays in position. He could fall back now. The line is shifted. Others are moving up. But the instinct that kept him alive this long tells him to remain. The enemy has not fully disengaged. Not yet. Ahead, a cluster of Germans gathers behind the skeletal remains of a farmhouse. The roof is gone. The walls are pocked by shrapnel. Smoke seeps from a doorway where a small fire burns. They're trying to hold just long enough to cover their withdrawal. Petrov adjusts his position, packing more snow beneath his elbows. His breath fogs the rear sight. He wipes it with a gloved thumb and steadies himself again. A German officer steps into the open, pistol raised, shouting orders. His voice carries clearly across the frozen ground. Too clearly. Petrov fires. The officer stumbles back into the doorway and disappears. The shouting stops. The men inside the ruin hesitate, then break, running in different directions. Some fall under Soviet machine gun fire. Others vanish into the trees. Petrov's rifle speaks again, slower now. Each shot costs more effort. The cold has sunk into his bones. His shoulders burn. His neck cramps from hours of stillness. A sudden explosion erupts nearby. A mortar round detonates close enough to shower the trench with dirt and ice. Petrov is slammed sideways, ears ringing, vision narrowing. He forces himself to stay conscious, to stay low. When the smoke clears, he realizes the blast has been a piece of the trench wall inward. His cover is compromised. He drags himself out, rolling into a shallow shell hole behind him. The move costs precious seconds. A burst of rifle fire snaps overhead. Bullets chew into the snow where he had been. The Germans have spotted something. Petrov lies still, heart pounding now, the calm, threatened. He forces it back down. Panic wastes oxygen. Panic gets you killed. He raises the Mosin carefully, scanning from the shell hole's edge. A German rifleman crouches near a fallen log, peering toward the trench. Young, nervous, dangerous. Petrov fires first. The rifleman drops. The rest of the group melts away, unwilling to test the invisible shooter again. Behind the Soviet line, artillery begins to thunder. The ground trembles. Shells scream overhead and crash into the German rear. The withdrawal accelerates into a rout. Petrov finally allows himself to roll onto his back, staring at the pale sky. Snowflakes drift down, settling on his face. For a moment, the world feels very far away. A medic reaches him, sliding into the shell hole, checking quickly for wounds. There are none, just bruises, just exhaustion. They help him up. His legs protest. His hands shake as he hands over the rifle for inspection. The medic looks at it, surprised, then hands it back with a nod. Still works, he says. Petrov slings it over his shoulder. Of course it does. As he walks back through the capture ground, he sees the evidence of the halted advance. German bodies spaced too far apart. Abandoned weapons. Vehicles stuck uselessly in snow. All signs of an attack that lost its rhythm and never found it again. That night, as the line stabilizes and fires burn low, officers begin to ask questions. How many were there? Where did the fire come from? What stopped them? Petrov says little. He cleans his rifle carefully, oiling the bolt, wiping frost from the barrel. The old steel gleams dully in the firelight. Tomorrow the war will continue. New weapons will roar. Tanks will grind forward. Aircraft will scream overhead. But today, on this stretch of frozen ground, time ran out for the enemy. And one rifle made sure of it. When the after-action reports were written, morning comes slowly, filtered through low clouds and drifting smoke. The battlefield looks different in daylight. What felt vast and chaotic the day before now appears measured and exposed. Tracks in the snow reveal where fear outran discipline. Frozen shapes mark where men fell and did not rise. Petrov sits on an ammunition crate near the edge of the tree line, sipping weak tea from a dented tin cup. His hands are still unsteady, not from cold now, but from the delayed weight of survival. Around him, officers move with notebooks and maps, retracing events with fingers and estimates. They ask where the German machine guns were placed, where the mortars fell, where the attack first stalled. Petrov answers only when asked directly. He points. He nods. He gives distances. He does not embellish. In one report, the engagement will be described as a well-timed defensive action supported by accurate small arms fire. In another, it will be credited to terrain and weather slowing the enemy. Somewhere else, artillery preparation will receive the praise. None of those reports will be entirely wrong. None of them will mention how a single marksman forced an advance to hesitate long enough for everything else to matter. A junior political officer approaches, eyes bright, eager to record something inspirational. He gestures toward the rifle. They say you stopped the company with that. Petrov shrugs slightly. I stopped men from standing up. The officer frowns, unsure how to turn that into a slogan. Later, as replacements arrive and positions are reinforced, Petrov walks the ground he fought over. He studies the angles again, confirming what instinct already knew. The open field, the broken fence, the rise where the machine gun tried to set up. All of it fits together cleanly in his mind. This is what modern officers sometimes forget. Wars are not fought on diagrams. They are fought on ground like this, where one decision cascades into many. German prisoners are marched past under guard. Some stare at the rifle slung across Petrov's back. One of them laughs bitterly and says something Petrov does not understand. A Soviet guard translates quietly. We did not think anyone still used those. Petrov says nothing. He remembers the training range years earlier, instructors complaining about worn barrels and crude sights. He remembers younger soldiers joking about wanting newer weapons. Faster ones, louder ones. But the Mosin had always done the same thing. It put bullets where you aim them if you did your part. By afternoon, orders come down. The unit will rotate rearward for rest. The line is held. The road remains in Soviet hands. The German timetable is broken beyond repair. As Petrov packs his kit, the lieutenant from the day before stops him. You bought us hours, the officer says. Maybe more. Petrov looks back toward the frozen field. Hours are enough, he replies. That evening, by a small fire sheltered from the wind, Petrov strips the rifle again. The bolt comes apart smoothly now, muscle memory guiding his hands. He wipes away carbon and ice, careful not to waste oil. The old rifle rests across his knees, scarred, simple, unchanged by the war raging around it. Petrov understands something, then, that no citation or medal will ever fully capture. The enemy did not lose because they underestimated Soviet numbers. They lost because they underestimated a weapon they thought time had made harmless. The advance that never came back. The front shifts weeks later, as fronts always do, grinding forward through blood and weather and exhaustion. New units replace old ones. Names are added to lists. Others vanish quietly from them. But the stretch of road near Krasny Bor remains firmly in Soviet hands long after the snow begins to soften. German records from the sector show the change in tone. Where early entries speak of confidence and rapid movement, later ones mention unexplained delays, unexpected resistance, sniper activity severe enough to disrupt command and control. The language is careful, professional, but between the lines is something else. Hesitation. That hesitation ripples outward. An attack postponed here forces adjustments elsewhere. Reserves are committed sooner than planned. Timetables slide. Small failures accumulate into operational frustration. Petrov never sees those documents. He returns to the line after rest with the same rifle, the same gear, the same quiet focus. No ceremony follows him. No special assignment. Just another day in the long war. But men who were there treat him differently. They give him space. They watch where he sets up. They listen. In later fights, German infantry moves more cautiously in his sector. Officers remain lower. Leaders hesitate before exposing themselves. Machine gun crews take longer to deploy. The memory of that frozen morning lingers, even if they do not know why. The rifle continues to fire. Months later, when spring mud replaces snow and the war changes character again, Petrov is wounded by shell fragments and sent to the rear. He survives. Others do not. The rifle is turned in, tagged, and issued again to someone else. It will fight in other hands, on other ground. Years after the war, historians will argue about what stopped which advance. They will cite divisions and supply lines and weather patterns. They will point to production numbers and technological shifts. All of it matters, but none of it changes what happened on that day. On a frozen field, at a moment when momentum decided everything, the enemy ignored an old rifle because it did not fit their idea of modern war, until it stopped them cold.